Welcome to the Money Over 50 podcast, brought to you by Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue from Money Over 50 Financial Advisors. This information is general in nature and does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Therefore, you should consider whether the information is appropriate for you and your personal circumstances. If you require personal advice, please contact Money Over 50 Financial Advisors. Here are your hosts, Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue.
Welcome to Money Over 50. Today, we're here with a topic of yours, Michael.
Yeah, Del, so for want of a better term, what I want to talk about today is the concept of being at the position where you're at a crossroads, whether you continue on working or whether you pull up stumps and retire. And what I want to talk about is sometimes knowing that you have enough to be able to retire actually frames your work happiness in a better light.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is a good one for. I'm going to tell a real client story here. My client is a lady that's on her own. So she's children are grown up. She's divorced, and she's in her early 60s, and she's actually gone into a new career. So she's new into a career, and it's in the NDIS type of space. So I had a meeting with my client, this lady, who we've worked together for the past 5 or 6 years, and we had thought that she would possibly work up to the end of 2025, at which point in time she'd be 66.
Yeah.
So she came in to see me yesterday, and she wanted to know, did she have enough to retire at this point in time? When quizzed a bit more, nothing bad had happened at work, and she worked in a very supportive place. She didn't go into detail. She just said that, look, something happened that threw my confidence, and I don't know whether I have the willpower to train myself up to get over this thing.
Yeah.
Or whether I should pull the pin now. So, look, the conversation went a little bit like this. I said to her, look, we had banked on you working to the end of December 2025. So, you know, we're meeting now in March of 2022. So we really thought that the better part of the next 3 years you'd actually work for. What would happen over that period of time is that she would add the position that she's in now. Over the next nearly 3 years, she'd add about another $200,000 to her position. So we'd sort of factored in her being in the position where she would have an extra $200,000 than she has right now.
Yep.
I did say to her, though, in saying that, there's nothing. Money isn't everything, and I said to her, we're only on this earth once, and there's nothing on earth that means more to quality time. And if it's your time to retire now, it's your time to retire now. We have to make that work, of course.
Yep.
And let's spend the next 45 minutes actually talking about that.
Yeah.
So I brought up a budget that we did a few years ago, and it was a budget that we'd actually looked at if she was retired then, which was in 2019, how much would she need to live off for that? She's always been someone that's been quite frugal.
Yep.
Even though she spends to go on holidays, and she's always got travel plans, and she's been able to do that.
Yep.
I was actually able to share with her stories of other similar ladies that are on their own. My mother being one of them.
Yep.
And she's always forever and a day taken $48,000 of income per year, and she's been able to travel extensively on that type of money and pay for all the running costs of a household and all of those types of things. So that sort of framed the conversation at that point in time. When we went through it, she needed about $41,000 to live, we thought, and that included $12,000 of travel every year. So fast forward to 2022, I brought that budget up with her again, and we had a quick look at that. And this lady had come in armed with her latest expenses, and she'd estimated that she would need to take about $1,600 a fortnight to cover most of her expenses and for an element of savings as well. So about $300 of that was for savings.
Yeah. Cool.
For things that could crop up, such as a little bit of holiday money and so forth.
Yep.
Things that could break around the house. So she's been a very good saver. So $1,600 a fortnight, about $41,000 a year. I was able to confirm with her at that point in time. I said, well, you actually have a bit over $500,000 of retirement savings now. We had hoped you would get to $700,000 over the next 2 and a bit years. And at that point in time, you would have had sufficient money to really never run out based on what your expenses are. Using our 8% implied average rate of return per annum after costs and taxes, which taxes are nothing once she's retired, of course, because she's in 0% tax superannuation fund. What that would bring in every year, your making money, or going to work and making money for you, is about $40,000, about $41,000. So not ideal from the point of view that we would want
you want your retirement
to rely
savings
on that forever.
Yeah, you generally would want your retirement savings to grow slightly in the early years of your retirement, so that as your income needs go up with inflation, you can cover that. That's
right. Not destitute either. No. And this is where any discussion around money needs to be tempered with. Are you unhappy in what you're doing now? Yes. And if you are, life's too short to continue to be unhappy. So the conversation went on. I said to her, past performance is no guarantee of future performance. However, if we look at rates of return over any long period of time, and you are prepared to be completely in high growth, and have very little money in cash, which is going to drag down the rates of return. Rates of return have historically been higher than that. So they've historically been higher than 10%. Would we ever bank on that? No, we wouldn't. And we don't know. That's a variable that we just don't know. So there's two variables that we don't know. If someone retires today, we don't know what the rates of return are going to be in the future. We can only look to history to show us that, and history over any extensive period of time by being invested into the best quality companies in Australia and the world has tended to be north of 10%. When we overlaid that, I said, okay, well, if you get a 10% rate of return, and again, not predicting that, then we're looking at your making money at about $50,000 a year now instead of $40,000 a year. So that extra hypothetical, it's a completely hypothetical 2% applied over a $500,000 retirement savings balance adds about $10,000 of your making money each and every year. We then also looked at, okay, what if it's only 6% as opposed to 8 or 10%? If it's only 6% over a period of time, then what's coming in is only about $30,000 a year. What you need to take as a minimum is $41,000. It's probably going to be more because if you want to travel, which she does, and all those sorts of things, there'll be a little bit more. You're going to start eating into your capital at that point in time. She's in the position where, based on her current scenario, she still doesn't qualify for pension age until 2026. So it's a little bit premature to be banking in on any sort of like assets test limits and so forth. What we'd worked out though with her current rate of assets, she would only be entitled for a very, very moderate age pension of somewhere in the vicinity of about $1,600 a year.
Yeah.
What we started to model in, though, is if she did start to run down her money, not that you would voluntarily want to do this, but if
that happened, you would be likely be eligible for a bit more.
Yeah, it would start to kick in to some sort of age pension payment that was several $1,000s a year. So the discussion continued, and we just we spoke about a lot about we can't control so many things. Just like we can't eat salad to guarantee that we're going to live to 100. Yeah, we just can't control that. Yeah. Do we give ourselves the best chance of living to 100 by not drinking too much and not smoking cigarettes and eating salad a lot of the time? Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do, but we can't control that. I never knew I was a counsellor. The ironic thing is this lady has done a psychology degree, and she works in NDIS in a form of counselling now. Yeah. I'm just going through talking about money. Yeah. And I've got no. I think I'm the world's worst counsellor because I'm stating facts here. I'm stating facts as far as we know them. Yeah. And I'm saying we can only look throughout history, and history shows me. Yeah. Because when she came to me 5 or 6 years ago, she was already a very good saver. So her mortgage was paid off on a single wage. She had good level of savings and all that. Like those track records make a difference in the future. And I said to her, with everything I know about you, you're going to make that $41,000 last. Yeah. And you're going to. There's not going to be big blowouts of costs. I don't believe. Yeah. So whilst our expenses are somewhat out of our control, they're also in our control to an extent. So, and then I said, I know that you're accepting of volatility. You haven't panicked in the past. We've seen a sharp dip, albeit only for a short period of time in 2020. You didn't panic at that point in time. If you're willing to, keep the vast preponderance of your retirement savings spread across the great quality companies of Australia and the rest of the world, you give yourself the best chance of getting that historical average. Yeah. And over most periods of time, ASIC don't hold me to every single period of time here. Over most periods of time, rolling rates of return have been circa 10% per annum or more. So with all of that, I said, me saying that, it would still be in your financial best interest to work until age 66. Which would be December 2025. However, if we took that to an extreme...
You'd never retire.
Yep. It'd be in your financial best interest to continue working forever. So financial best interest isn't overall best interest. I stopped it there, and my client actually said, look, I feel so much better after having this discussion with you. She said, I think I'll actually be able to go back to work and actually be able to upskill myself, which I need to do because of the drop in confidence that I've had from whatever this incident was. Yep. She said, I think I feel a lot better now knowing that if I really need to, I'm in the position to be able to retire. Yeah. And I said to her, you're not the first person to tell me that. Yeah. So there's something about knowing you're potentially at that point in time where you are able to retire. Yeah. There's something there that increases people's work happiness when they decide to go back to work.
Absolutely.
If she hadn't had that discussion with me, there's every chance that she's probably going back to work thinking, do I really want to be here? Yes. After that, and this only happened, we're recording this one day after. Yeah. I said that we should have a meeting 6 weeks after that period of time just to see how she's feeling at that point in time. So still don't know the answer here. But she instantly felt better being able to go back to work.
You don't know the answer in this situation, but as you said, we have seen this situation play out in other cases, and it's amazing how often it happens where the shift that occurs when people reach the point where they needed to be in order to fully retire. It's amazing how often they don't then retire because they go, oh well, it's a very interesting mindset shift that they go, well, I'm now going to work because I want to go to work. And so I'm going to, I'm going to be able to shrug off a lot of the stuff that probably did bother me, because I go, I don't care. If it all gets too much, I can just, throw my hands up and walk out whenever I want. And it's a very interesting, like an identity thing of if you're choosing to be somewhere, if you're choosing to go to work, you really just approach it much differently to that concept of, I mean, I remember talking about this. It's a bit of a weird digression, but I remember talking about this with someone once who did like a guide on whitewater rafting and that kind of thing. Yep. And he was saying that any of those sorts of jobs, when you're working with adults, it's much easier working with adults than with kids. Not for the reason that you'd expect, not because it's easier to sort of keep track of whatever it's come. Because if you go whitewater rafting and you're an adult, it's because you chose to go whitewater rafting. You didn't. No one signed you up for that. Whereas if you're doing that and it's a kid that's doing it, sometimes it might be because they want to do it, but sometimes it's because their parents wanted them to do it, or they feel that they should because of their mate, or whatever the case may be there. And so it's the same. It's the same action. You're doing the same thing. But if you're doing it because you want to be doing it, and you know that you have the choice to be there or not be there, you have that autonomy, you have the decision to make, you definitely approach it with a very different mindset. And we've seen again and again that people just tend to be much happier once they reach that point where they go, and that's often the conversation is sometimes approaching that point where you go, hey, well, you maybe aren't quite where you'd need to be in order to fully retire and never run out of money ever again. But, you will be fine. You're not going to starve in the street. It's going to be okay, particularly like you said, for our clients who are a bit more frugal, and they can tighten the belt if they need to, and they know that they can survive on not as much money. It's very easy financial planning wise to go, well, if you only need $41,000 a year, we're probably going to be fine. Your retirement savings, if they dip a bit, you might get some age pension. There might be some other ways around it. You can probably go and get a part-time job that isn't really highly paid, but it's going to make up a fair bit of that shortfall. It's sort of easy to do the financial planning for those people in that way, and it tends to make a big difference where they are then much more comfortable, much happier going back to work, even though they're in the same position that they were the week before we had the meeting. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Money Over 50 podcast with Money Over 50 Financial Advisors. For more information and resources, visit the Money Over 50 website, mo50.com.au. We look forward to catching up again soon.